Welcome back to the AMS UBC Cricket Club's podcast, the Overcast podcast. I'm Akshat. With me is Eshaan, and we're the hosts for today. Eshaan, how are you doing?
Good, good. Yeah, slight change of location for the both of us in this episode. But yeah, don't worry, we'll be back in our studio very soon. But yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Back home, so
Mm-hmm.
it has its own fun.
Right.
So let's get started. We'll be discussing the playoffs. It's starting soon, and I think we do that recap of a very historic season, and then we can also look into the matches in the future. But before we do anything, I think it's my duty. John, I have a gift for you. Shoe paper.
Of course.
And the prince has beaten the king. When Faf said, "E Sala Cup nahi," I think he meant it. I think he meant it. The dreams shattered, a picture perfect story. Prince
Mm-hmm.
of Indian batting, Shubman Gill. We won't dwell on this too much, otherwise, we might see tears on the other end of the screen. But
Mm-hmm.
Ishan, thoughts?
Yeah, we're recording this the day after RCB has lost to GT in a pretty interesting match. I mean, it started off with an incredible 100 from King Kohli, and we'll talk about Kohli in a few minutes as well. But yeah, if there's one team who could have really kicked us out of the tournament, it was GT. But yeah, I think it's not fair to really focus too much on this one game because if we were to win this tournament, I think we should have qualified by now, like teams like GT and CSK have done. So yeah, it does hurt a bit to come this close and be so far away from that qualification, but we won't be able to say that the only team to have qualified with the past 3 years is RCB. So that's the only sort of change. But yeah, looking forward to the next season now, as always. Anyways, let's move on from this. This season as a whole, if we talk about, because I guess now we need to move on from RCB. I can see your background celebrating your qualification. It's a
Yes.
pretty big achievement for CSK, pretty consistent season for them. But talking about the season as a whole, we mentioned this in the fourth episode. It's been pretty interesting, pretty historic, like you said. We've seen the most number of 200 plus scores. We've seen most number of sixes being hit. I just wanted to sort of ask you, what are your thoughts on that? Because is it just because there are better batsmen in the tournament now? Is it because there are smaller grounds, better pitches for batters, or better batsmen, poor bowling? Like, what do you think the reason is for such incredible batting?
You bring up a good point because I was also seeing the stat like, yeah, as you mentioned, most number of sixes,
Mm-hmm.
highest number of like 200 plus totals. So it's not like IPL before had, bigger grounds per se. I think pitches is one thing, especially in Dubai, one of the IPLs where the chasing team won most of the time. So those IPLs, yes, but here I think it's just the audacity of the players. It has escalated to a level that's never seen before. You see these youngsters, they're coming in and they have this confidence of the world in them. And I think it started with players like Rishabh Pant, the batch of players who came to the Indian team and especially in the test format just showcased those shots, the bravery to just go out there and display your skill set, play your game more importantly. And I think that has definitely elevated. And that's why you see the highest run scorers this season. A lot of them have been youngsters, a lot of them have been uncapped players. Yes, Yashasvi Jaiswal, of course, we'll talk about him, but a great example we can see there. And I think to add to that, I think there's some storyline in this IPL. There's rivalry and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And biggest one of them all, of course, we can talk about LSG versus RCB.
Right.
Kohli and Gambhir back again. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was it was an interesting event, that one. Yeah, never good to see when the banter sort of crosses the line, and it started in the field. I think with Naveen ul Haq saying something to Siraj or Kohli. I don't even know what it was, but I mean it's good till that point. When there's aggression, there's passion. They want to win for the team, but when the coach gets involved for some reason, wearing his full kit, coming onto the field, shushing the crowd in the first game, and then I don't know what that whole drama was. Getting Kyle Mays away from Kohli. Yeah, I mean it was all meme worthy. Good for media, good for all of that. But I think Kohli dealt with that situation pretty well. If it was 2013, it could have gone a little differently. But I think he's a changed man now. So yeah, I mean, not good to see it, but I guess sometimes it's all fine because it's a part of the game. Both are competitive people. That's sort of their nature. So it's understandable, but never really great to see things like that happen.
Hmm.
What are
I
your
think
thoughts
I
on that?
think the debate was I think the debate was about which Chole Bhature shop is the better one in
Probably,
Delhi. Um,
probably, yeah,
Probably.
yeah. Both being Delhi boys, yeah, probably.
Exactly. And I think you mentioned, like, it's good for the fanfare of the IPL.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's been another landmark of this IPL. It's been just the fanfare. Everywhere my man Dhoni goes, he just gets that fanfare. Like everywhere there's a farewell. But
Right.
I will say though, there have been instances where the fanfare has gone the other way, and the
Mm-hmm.
we saw early in the IPL the SRH crowd. Like, I mean, what was that?
Yeah, again, I mean, pretty similar to the first example. Not good to see, such banters crossing the line. I mean, the fans getting involved, throwing stuff at the dugout. Yeah, I think Heinrich Klaassen also mentioned something about umpiring. That whole incident, yeah, not good to see. Maybe one could blame the quality of umpiring itself, but you need to look at the crowd and what they did. And yeah, I mean, it's all fun and games till one point. You're enjoying the game. We want to be a part of it, but yeah, throwing stuff on the ground and at the players, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Mm. Mention umpiring and Mumbai Indians just hiding in the corner.
Yeah. Now sitting at number 4, yeah, because of us.
But yeah, like talking about SRH, like they
Mm-hmm.
have had an interesting season. Like they have been a very humbled team. They have
Mm-hmm.
constantly been beaten by one or the other. When their batting performs, their bowling is not up to the mark. When their bowling performs, their batting is not up to the mark. And when everything is fine, their fielding just gives up. A guy like Glenn Phillips dropping catches. So that's something that's unbelievable to me. But the one victory that will stay in my heart, and it went back all the way to the days of Lagan. It
Mm-hmm.
was like a remake of Lagan. It's Sandeep Sharma coming in, looked at the skies, only to see a free hit. Like
Uh-huh.
that's that's storytelling right there. What are your thoughts on that, man?
You can't script it better, right? I mean, you win the game with a perfect Yorker, and then you celebrate, and then you find out it's a no ball, and then I mean, not even that it's a no ball, but you get hit for 6 afterwards from a batter who's not been able to find that form. Abdul Samad. I mean, incredible match. I mean, I just did not expect them to win. I saw the post on Instagram like. As RR have managed to win, I was like, okay, yeah, another SRH loss. But then 5 minutes later, I was like, SRH won, and I got so shocked. I mean, how did Abdul Samad hit that for 6? But that's how the game has been this season. Honestly, people online say it's all scripted and whatnot, but it does feel like that sometimes. I'm not saying it is, obviously, but it does feel like that this season especially. But yeah, incredible outcome that game. And yeah, talking about RR, you talked about Jaiswal earlier. A young
Yeah.
prospect coming in, scoring 50s and quick 70s, quick 80s, but then being able to convert them to an incredible 100. I mean, what are your thoughts on that innings, and how do you see Jaiswal sort of coming up this season and showing his caliber?
I think Jaiswal, in the early seasons, I saw him. I saw him as a more reserved batsman, where he looked to knock the ball around. But then I saw a few of his innings in domestic cricket, Ranji, and he was very ballistic, if I may use the word.
Right.
He made sure just to not give the bowler a chance. And
Mm-hmm.
Nitish Rana learned it the hard way. Firstly, which spinner, that to a part-time spinner,
A
takes the new
part-time
ball?
spinner.
Like, I don't. Okay, in that sense, I remember Shikhar Dhawan bowling to
Hmm.
Hashim Amla back in
Right.
2016. He doesn't
Right.
take the new ball in the IPL just because he could bowl.
Yeah.
But no, that's besides the point.
Hmm.
Yashasvi, yeah, amazing. Like fastest 50. And he's got shots all around the ground, which is another thing that I see. It's not that he has one shot like Rahul Tewatia, who
Hmm.
just shuffles to the leg side and converts everything, plays over and out, So I really see him prospering, but I hope the Indian selectors they really make use of this form. They,
Right.
give him chance in the T20s, and especially the other youngsters as well. It's a World Cup year. I hope they don't change that much in the ODI side,
Right.
especially with the T20s. I think we have time till the next T20 World Cup, and this
Hmm.
is the time where you should really like experiment with your players. And Yashasvi, I think he makes it to that team really quickly.
Right, and especially with tours like Ireland and Sri Lanka, with these sort of teams, you can obviously test your younger side, because I think we in that sort of a period, the Indian cricket team where you're looking to transition from the experienced players to now a younger generation with Shubman Gill, players like Yash Jaiswal, players coming up
Absolutely.
in the next phase, and I think it's good to test them out. Yeah, I think the next thing I guess we can talk about is that one game where MI played MI played GT, sorry, and I think there was
Man,
one game where I felt that MI could have closed it pretty early and improved the net run rate. I think it was pretty. That could have been a smart thing to do, but I don't know that that's MI for you, right? But that game, what are your thoughts on that game? Incredible,
I think firstly Sky went crazy,
right?
and Sachin Tendulkar, imitating
Mm-hmm.
that shot of Sky,
Yeah,
like that wasn't even an outside edge, that was deliberate. And to Mohammad Shami, like a bowler like Mohammad Shami, playing that
mm-hmm.
shot is not easy. So that was amazing. He went ballistic. But you know what? I have expectations from Sky. He matched it. He did well. Okay, go home. Look at Rashid Khan that game. Did it with the ball. Did it with some fielding effort as well. I remember, and
Yeah,
then comes into bat and hits 10 sixes at 1K. Like
yeah.
even Gautam Gambhir didn't do that in the final. but
Don't
but
say anything against Gambhir. He'll
he
probably come into this meeting somehow wearing his full kit, screaming at you. But yeah.
I hope so. I hope so. But um, yeah, like he's just that kind of player that he gives it all for the team. Like he will give it all. He's not very worried about his own stats or his own numbers, and he's more spirited. Like even during while he was captain for GT in a few games, he was very spirited as captain. So definitely. And talking about making, spirited comebacks, our man, the man himself, the left arm sensation, Yash Dayal is back. What are your
The
thoughts?
goat. I think he heard our episode. I think he must have heard a few clips from our first episode, and then proved us wrong. I mean, just a brilliant
There
comeback,
we
and
go.
you expect these sort of things from a young left arm pace bowler, and he's done well. It's just a few games here and there that we took the Mickey off in the first episode. But yeah, I mean, a pretty good comeback for him. Good to see Yash coming back, showing what he's capable of. And yeah, I think he's a pretty young prospect, pretty promising prospect to look out for in the future for us.
Yeah. And talking about highs and lows of life, we've
Yeah.
had highs and lows in this IPL.
Hmm.
LSG put up 257, didn't beat RCB's 263,
Did
but
not beat
RR
RCB.
put up 9, which also didn't beat RCB's
Yeah,
49.
I got a bit nervous for a second there when LSG reached 250. I was like, please just make sure they don't go past our record. But yeah, another record. You mentioned RR record. They didn't manage to break our record, unfortunately. But yeah, two of the most extreme games that we've gotten to see this season. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that LSG game though? 257, just complete destruction. That batting lineup,
I mean,
it looks good.
it makes sense. You have Stoinis, you have Puran, and
Mm-hmm.
like you just have these hitters that are very powerful. Like in the
Right.
sense that you have a player like Kohli or a player like Shubman Gill. They're stroke players, but these players are brute power. Like they would come in and they would just take on the bowling, like with power alone. Like it's not even, it might not look graceful at times, it might not even look pleasant to look at. But I mean, when you're getting 257 on board, I don't think so. There's any point to, pick faults. Like that's an amazing total.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you mentioned the type of players LSG have, the brute sort of power hitters, like Curran, like Stoinis. And I think one of the reasons why they've struggled at their home ground is because that pitch doesn't suit their sort of game. It doesn't suit batsmen who just go for the ball from the very first ball and try to hit them big. So, you know, probably LSG should have looked into their auction strategy a bit closely, and pick players who can sort of anchor them. And we could probably look at players like Deepak Hooda or KL Rahul, obviously, who hasn't been able to play the entire season, they probably banked on to anchor. But yeah, probably one of the reasons why they've struggled is that reliance on those big hitters on a ground that doesn't support them.
Definitely. And like, yeah, coming to RR again, I mean, it's been a flop. Like, ever since that no ball, like, just baat badal gayi, zindagi badal gayi for them,
Right,
Uh,
right.
it's such a good team. Josh Butler,
Mm,
5 ducks this season.
yeah.
So that's saying something. And Sanju Samson as well. Like, there's a lot of say of give him a chance in the Indian team. Heck, there's, I
Mm,
think, a movement, like a
mm-hmm.
protest to just get him
Right,
in the Indian team.
right.
But when you see such a talented player, sometimes throw
Mm,
his wicket away. I feel,
mm,
there's some. I think it was Sanjay Bangar who said this. Or Vikram Rathod. There's a difference between ruthlessness and carelessness, I think. And I think Sanju Samson is embodying carelessness.
yeah.
He he doesn't really, apply his talent that he has. In my opinion, of course. And when he does, the results are just amazing. So I hope he does from next season, and wish RR best of luck next season as well. Yeah.
Yeah, surprising to see last year's finalists not able to make it to the playoffs, and struggling throughout the season, not being able to find that consistency. We saw some good performances from players like Hetty, from Butler, obviously from Padikkal that we've talked about. Even UG Jail has been bowling pretty well, but again, just not being able to find a consistency. Getting all out for that score against RCB. I don't even want to mention it because it's embarrassing. It really is from a team like RR.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty good stuff from RCB there, but focusing on RR, yeah, just slightly disappointing season for them. And you talked about Sanju. I think he's an excellent batsman. I think the world knows how good he is, but maybe sort of that captaincy pressure could be showing on his performances as well. So maybe I won't be surprised if RR looks into Josh Butler to be captain next year. So that could happen as a possibility, but some people have also argued that they've not been able to manage players and sort of define roles and not use players like Devdil Padikkal, for example. So yeah, lots to think about for RR going into the next season. But yeah, talking about
Mm.
RCB performance against RR, I think it was that sort of switch in momentum for them, like the no ball,
Yeah.
Sandeep's no ball was switch for momentum for RR. I think Kohli's sort of form coming in from that RR game and after that RR game, especially getting 50s with Faf, being able to anchor the innings and sort of increase that strike rate as well, which people have talked about a lot, and hitting amazing centuries as well. So, how have you seen Kohli's, and what do you think about Kohli's form, especially going into the WTC now?
It's honestly, when I watch Kohli bat, I feel a sense of comfort.
Hmm.
Initially when he's there, I feel a bit fearful, especially the past 3 years.
Yeah,
There's been a tendency that Kohli gets out cheaply. But that's only because the standards he's set for us in the past, a decade probably.
right.
And it's so good to see him back, and especially his aggressive self.
Hmm.
Like after every boundary, even though it's an inside edge, he'll just pump himself up. Come on,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just so nice to see. And I'm a CSK supporter. Like, I mean, it's
Hmm.
obvious,
Of
but then,
course, of course.
like when you watch Kohli bat, there's a different aura to it. Like
Yeah,
You won't go out and sit like that to watch. Maybe I don't know. You won't go sit that patiently to watch Devon Conway, in my opinion. But you would do that for Virat Kohli because just how he has this ability, and he's a clutch player, in my opinion.
mm,
Every time the game matters, even yesterday, as we saw, the game mattered the most. Faf, Maxwell, Karthik, and Lomro, the batting pretty much failed. But Kohli, being the clutch player he is, he was there for the team, and two back-to-back centuries. Like, wow.
absolutely. I think just showing his class last night, understanding the situation that he has to be that player who bats till the 20th over. I think he's incredible with these sort of situations where the pressure is on the team. Finding ways to sort of put that pressure on the other side, and just incredible. I think the whole conversation around him being out of form, where is the 2016 Kohli, and not being able to score centuries, and people waiting for the 71st, and all that sort of discussion over these past 2, 3, 4 years, or actually after 2019. I think it's
Yeah,
it's all unnecessary. It was just the media doing what the media does. I think Kohli has been playing like this ever since 2019. I think nothing has changed. I think his technique's been there, his intent's been there, his passion has
yeah,
always been there. It's just that he was not getting those big scores. And I think as Indian fans, as fans of cricket, if we judge performances just by looking at how many hundreds like a player has scored, I think we're heading in the wrong direction when we're looking at players'
absolutely.
caliber. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing on like the fans' part, but I think Kohli's been doing what Kohli does forever. He hasn't stopped, and I don't think he'll ever stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the king, I think we'll have to talk about the prince as well.
Yeah,
Um, he also scored back-to-back hundreds, and he joins the list of, I think, Chris Gale and Shikhar Dhawan, and now Kohli himself.
right.
But I mean, I I feel so happy. On the same day, Rohit scores a 50, Kohli and Gill get a ton. I'm getting my
Mm.
hopes up for the World Cup, but it's been so good to see Shubman Gill back. He just makes it look so much easier. Like I was watching Ridhiman Saha bat, and I thought that's the hardest deck to bat on. But as soon as Gill came on strike, he just made it look so easy. And there's a moment after the game where I think Gill and Kohli had a moment, and that's just
Mhm.
nice to see. Like two very, I won't say fierce competitors, but very like classy batsmen, and a kind of trend on their own, like with their style of batting. And it's amazing to see for Shubman Gill, someone who he idolizes now, replicating his feats in front of him. So that's kind of amazing to see by Shubman Gill.
Yeah, good to see a young Indian batsman who will probably, be our sort of run machine going forward. We'll be relying on Shubman Gill, Rashid Jaiswal, someone like a Prithvi Shaw. I don't know if he gets in the mix of things, but Shubman Gill, I think we're going to rely on that one player for a very long time. And I think it's really promising to see someone like him taking responsibility, sort of creating that stability in that GT setup, and just this incredible balance, incredible power hitting ability from Shubman Gill. It's not easy to hit Siraj from a back of the line delivery, at Chinnaswamy, and just
Yep.
pretty good to see from an Indian perspective the way he's been batting, and not just batting freely or hitting sixes, but being able to convert scores consistently. So that's been the standout for me as far as Shubman Gill is concerned.
Absolutely. And talking about like hits, I think that's
Hmm.
about time we talk about some flops.
Yeah.
I and it's not a shock to me, but I feel like we the only reason we say flops is because we expect a lot from them from the start,
Right. Right.
and it's not saying anything on the caliber of the players or their
Hmm.
class, but it's just been this season that they have disappointed us. And I'd like to start off with my own example firstly with Ben Stokes. I mean, he was injured, but to be fair, when you're going at that price, like I expected a bit more from him. But I'll start him because bias. But I'd go to people like Sam Curran, like
Hmm.
with the Punjab Kings. He did do a bit of captaincy, but I feel he hasn't been that impressive, um, based on his price and as well as his ability that we saw in the World T20 as well. And yeah, what are your thoughts, and which other players come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Curran, firstly, just not being able to create the sort of impact that he was asked to do for Punjab. And I think one of the reasons why Punjab has not been able to win games easily is because that sort of middle order has not been able to strike consistently, with Liam not playing a lot of the games, and with Sam Curran giving away too many runs with the ball. With the bat, I mean, he got a few runs here and there, but I mean, he's mainly in that team for his bowling and especially at the death. So yeah, just gave away too many runs. And not being able to create that impact. And maybe one could argue that the impact player rule itself had an impact to play in this sort of um,
Yep,
uh, struggle for Sam Curran, honestly. Because all rounders have struggled a bit, I've seen in the season, and maybe it's that sort of pressure of putting in that one skill and focusing on batting or bowling, and not being able to focus on both, and sort of that impacting their performance altogether.
definitely. Yeah. And yeah, other than that, I think Prithvi Shaw, I mean, we see
Hmm.
Shane Watson as well talk about it, in various ways, and Ricky Ponting as well. Like Prithvi Shaw is another one.
Hmm.
And if he and Warner really got going, I don't know how BC wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
Um, and last another one that comes to mind is Harry Brook. Yes, he scored the
Hmm.
100. I'm giving it to you.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it hasn't been a lot from Harry Brook as well. I felt like Henry Klassen, he scored another 100, but
Hmm.
he was much more impressive. Glenn Phillips with his cameos was much more impressive. So hopefully we see these players rise in the next season. But
Yeah.
let's talk about this season and what's coming up.
Hmm.
What's your predictions? How do you think the playoffs are going to play out?
Yeah, now I think it's set up perfectly for the four teams to sort of go out there, give it their all. I think we're going to see some very exciting matches. We haven't seen a super over yet, so
Mm,
might put it out there. We might see a super over at least in one game, because it's. I mean, we've seen everything this season, so why not? So yeah, one super over probably in one of the playoffs, but GT looks really strong, which Shubman Gill in form. Hardik not even batting in that last game, and them winning easily with 2 overs to spare. So I would say GT looks very strong, but keep in mind, I mean, CSK are playing a game at their home ground, and probably that would go into their favor with the slow pitch, the spinning track, with Theekshana making an impact probably. So yeah, CSK and GT are my favorites going into the playoff. I mean, I really don't think someone like a Lucknow and Mumbai will be able to play against GT and CSK with that much freedom that we've seen from them in the past. I think LSG, especially we saw in the last like in the qualifier last year, they sort of showed that they were under pressure, and I think yeah, GT and CSK are teams that sort of handle pressure better. But what do you think? I mean, I think I know the answer, but still, I would like to hear your thoughts on how you see those qualifiers in the future.
No, I definitely agree with you. CSK has a massive advantage playing
Hmm.
GT at home, because otherwise I felt that GT are quite unbeatable anywhere
Right.
else with the kind of batting prowess they have and just a bowling ability. Like they have two highest wicket contenders with Mohit Sharma also tagging along. So they are a very good unit. But I would like to make a sort of counterpoint, and I think Mumbai might make it to the final, making it the El-Clasico final, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because I feel Mumbai are a clutch team as well. They make it, when it really counts, and I feel with Cameron Dean just smashing 100 and a well set batting order and a
Yep.
developing bowling lineup, I would say. Um, they definitely have the ability to outsmart GT, and it's a clutch team. And plus, personally, I want El Clasico so that CSK can win in the grand style.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think MI is a team to look out for with the sort of momentum now they've got. I definitely agree with you there. I think Lucknow has a pretty interesting game, a big challenge in front of them. Yeah, defeating MI with Surya and Green batting the way they are, it's going to be pretty challenging. So yeah, exciting matches coming up. But I just wanted to sort of round up on a few things just one more sort of interesting point. What do you think of the impact player rule now that 70 matches are over? What are your thoughts on that? Just like a quick brief sort of plus minus pros cons. How on a scale of 1 to 10, for example, how would you rate it?
Um, yeah, initially I was a bit hesitant, but now that
Mm-hmm.
I've seen why they brought it about, it kind of makes sense. I would still rate it a 6. I'm not very happy with it because, again, it comes back to my point of the all-rounders being underutilized. Like prime example is a guy like Sikandar Raza in the Punjab Kings. He was so underutilized in this tournament, and like yeah, I see teams like CSK and Gujarat. They've been using it well. The impact player rule. Maybe if there are more provisions in the future, it might change. But for now, I'm a bit on the side of hesitancy. What about you?
I completely agree with you. I think 6 is a perfect score that I would give to the rule as well. I think again, all rounders not being able to not being utilized well this season. I think players like Shahbaz Ahmed, Shivam Dube, their second skill has not been able to has not been tested. I feel, and I think going into bigger tournaments and for India as well now they're going to play and obviously do both, batting and bowling, and not being tested in such a big tournament could sort of hamper their opportunities in the future. So that's one downfall of this impact player rule. And another sort of point that could also impact Prithvi Shaw's form, or someone like, we talked about Prithvi Shaw extensively, and I think he has been under pressure of being replaced and being replaced with a better strike hitter. I think that additional pressure which the impact player rule brings on to go for the ball, to go for big runs and not to worry about the batters to come and play freely. I think that sort of also impacts players. And I think one of the reasons why we've seen 200 plus scores, why we've seen the most number of sixes being hit, is also because of the impact player rule, where an additional batter adds that sort of extra 20 runs, and you've always got that at the back of your
Absolutely.
mind, that extra pressure, that extra fear of the chasing team being able to chase your target. So yeah, a few interesting points from the impact player rule, but it'll be exciting to see what's to come with that rule.
Definitely. And yeah, and I'd just like to add, you mentioned like, batsman, let's say he gets out for zero and he gets impact subbed. But
Yeah,
normally in a game, maybe that batsman goes on to field and take a spectacular catch. So that
right.
element of, that contributing to the team just goes out.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's all we have for this episode of our podcast. We really hope you liked it. We were massively overwhelmed by the response we were getting in the first podcast, and hopefully you like this one. More to come, obviously. Thank you so much, Ishan. If you have any other words to say.
No, just thank you so much to you, Akshat, and to everyone watching at home, watching our reels. And I would encourage everyone to follow us on Instagram. I think we've been posting there pretty frequently now. Just one of those sort of initiatives from our part to keep the community at UBC and worldwide, those who follow cricket closely, and just keeping them engaged. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back with another episode soon. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all of those things, obviously. But yeah, see you guys soon. And bye bye for now.